So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ask YP Now show, which is a show focusing on positive living, work life balance, living with passion, success in life and business, and especially making the world a better place. And tonight, or this evening, we've got a special guest all the way from Perth, Australia. Perth is actually where I live. Okay, so we've got Cyril D'Silva here, and he's a really amazing person, right? So, Cyril, can you just tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, I was born in Singapore and I lived in Jakarta for 6 years. It's where I learned how to wheel and deal. And I moved to Perth in 2003. And I'm a single dad and I live with my 18-year-old daughter.
Okay. And I was promoting this live show about owning, a slice of a diamond, diamond mine potentially. So, you share with me a very interesting story. Can you share, with our audience here, um, what did you do? Tell us about the story about how you got the license to explore for diamonds in that particular area.
Yeah. So, someone introduced me. It's a major jewelry company that came to me when I first listed in Sierra Leone, and they tracked me down in London to try and get this license for them. And that's how I found out about the Zimmy diamonds. And I tried at that time, and I didn't get a license. The government didn't give it to me at that time. And but what happened was, when I listed and I think I've got it because of goodwill. In 2013, when I listed my company in London, I listed it on July 19, 2013. 10 days after I listed, I announced a program which cost me $24,000, and I worked with an organization called Street Kids to
Okay.
refurbish about three schools which held about 300 school children. And
Mm-hmm.
the headlines in the newspaper the next day, I didn't expect the headlines. I mean, it was in two major newspapers in Syria. It says, first company in the history of mining to do CSR before even starting
Mm,
to mine. And that amazed me
okay.
because it was $24,000. It wasn't a lot of money. And then I went back to Street Kids and I said, wow, the headline. He says, yeah, he says, we've been talking to two multinationals for 4 years now for the same program and they haven't made a decision. Right. So that
Mm,
was the first one. And I think that caught the attention of the government. And the second one was soon after, I think I listed in 2013. In 2015, Ebola happened in the country. And when Ebola struck, I mean, it's a deadly disease. Every major company
yeah.
just ran away, just left. They didn't pay wages, they didn't pay anything. And I decided I was not going to do that. I mean, we couldn't work for 18 months. And I decided that we had to pay the salaries. It's simple because they're the eighth poorest nation in the world. They don't have
Mm,
job keeper, job seeker. And if I just went away, I mean, they're going to struggle, right? And it is not
yeah.
fair for me. It is not right because they've helped me in good times to look for diamonds, and that's what I did. So for 18 months, I ran the capital down. It was a public company, and I did what
Mm,
was right, and that I think had a profound impact on the people in the ground, right? I mean,
okay.
when you've got money, you can go to a government and apply for licenses. It's pretty easy, but to win the hearts of the people on the ground, it's different, right? You have to do the
Yeah.
right thing by them, right?
Mm.
It's not when you make a profit; you got to do it from day one, and I think that's what I did, and I did right, and that's how I got invited back to Sierra Leone when the new government came into power, and that's when I requested for the license, and I think that is why they're giving it to me.
I like the saying, do the right thing and doing it
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
What sort of, has there been any experience, anything in your life that make you, have this consciousness of doing the right things, or doing it right by people?
Um, I came from a family that was not rich, but we had everything. My mom and dad gave me everything. I mean, even though I got
Mm,
my license, gave me a car. We didn't have
mm,
everything, but one day I got in trouble. And when I was in Indonesia, I got in trouble, and I and I had to ask my dad for money, and he was already in his 70s. And this priest that comes into the church, he actually came to my house and offered my dad. He said, he said, someone's given me some money. I want to give it to you because I think you need it, right? And my dad, being upright and everything, he says, "Oh, I have a house, I've got a job, I can't take this money, right?" And he said, "Oh, you stupid guy, this is God that's giving you money, right? This is God that's
mm,
extending his hand because he feels you need it." And he didn't take it. But a couple of days later, I ran into trouble in Indonesia, and I needed money urgently. My sister was in Canada; she needed school fees, and my dad was stuck, and he went back to the priest, and you know,
mm,
and of course the priest gave it to him. And I thought it was something really unique, because you can live in a nice house and stuff like that, but you never know when you need a
that's
hand.
right.
And that hand of friendship came from somebody else that we didn't know, right? It was someone else that gave
Mm,
the priest something for charity, and he didn't go to the poorest of the poor, right? For some reason, he came to my house,
mm,
and and that touched my heart, because I think these are strange actions, right? And
mm,
from that day onwards, when I heard that story, I knew I had to give back to society, right?
mm,
And I knew I had to help others, and that's how my vision was formed.
mm. I would say that sometimes we call it, whatever faith we have is call it divine guidance.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, and when we continuously do the right things and doing things right by people, somehow by
it comes right.
magic, things will turn out right for us. I mean, I don't know whether you've seen my Facebook post. There I was in Singapore, and
Yeah,
this is advice for people who are traveling SIA and then doing a connecting with Scoot.
yeah,
So I was in a situation where I had two bags because SIA gave me an additional 20 kilo.
yeah,
But when I came on onto Scoot, Scoot says, no, we are a different company. We don't recognize SIA's additional one bag. So I was stuck with 20 kilos, and the cost was $20 per kilo Sing dollar. So there's a $400 bill.
yeah,
And my air ticket from Singapore to Penang will probably cost me about $120.
yeah,
So I was in a predicament, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, the manager turned up and asked, "What's happening? What's happening?" So I explained to her, and she said, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Penang." And then she replied, "Yeah, I'm also from Penang." Okay, you be patient, and I sorry, and she got it all sorted out for me. It's just like an angel appearing from
it is.
nowhere.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they sent you messages in a strange way. Just before,
Mm,
it was not my first trip to Sierra Leone, but in Liberia, when I was invited to go, I went there, and
mm,
this was 2009, when the sanctions were in full place, and they brought
mm,
me into this room, tables full of 10 kg sacks of gold, and almost $3 million worth of diamonds on it. And they were
mm,
asking for help, because they said, we can't sell these things because we have sanctions in place. And I was like, you have the gold out of the ground, you've got the diamonds, why do you need me, right? And who are we to fight the sanctions
mm,
which the World Bank puts in, right? I'm
mm,
nobody. And I made up my mind at that time that it was too difficult to do things, right?
mm,
And this is a hut, so there's no electricity. I mean, it was dark. It's about 7 p.m. And as we were
mm.
driving out, I turned around, and there was this sign up there, and it was the only sign that was lighted up. And it said, "Why has God deserted me?" Right?
Mhm,
And that struck a chord, that was a message to me, because I've just been in a room which is
mm,
holding a couple of $1 million of
mm,
of gold and diamonds, and yet people are so poor.
mm.
And that's when I decided to take up the challenge. I thought that
Okay.
God was sending me a message.
Mm. So you were saying that, when you take a company for listing or when you do things, you're interested to help look after the mom and pops and the
Yeah,
ordinary average people.
yeah.
Why that? What's your
So when I did my
motivation?
listing in 2013, I
Mm-hmm.
raised $8 million, right?
Okay.
Every single corporate advisor, and they were the top in Australia. They told me that I was doing the impossible, that I would never be able to do it, right? They talked to my valuations and stuff, and they said, you're overvaluing your company 42 million pounds. But I raised $8 million from the mums and dads and retail investors, Singapore, Australia, Malaysia, right? Out of the 8
Mm.
million, my stockbroker gave me 100,000, and he charged me $150,000 in fees. So if I had
Mm.
so if I had depended on the stockbroker, I would have died, right? And
Mm.
whenever an institution comes to you, right, that money comes from the mums and dads and the retail investors, right? They have that
Yes.
money because these people are giving them, right?
Mm.
But when it comes to pre-IPO opportunities, right, it is reserved for the institutional investors, right? So they
Yes.
take it, and they take 90% of it, and they pass 10% back to the end user, to
Mm.
the mums and dad, right? And they say going on the IPO, right? It doesn't seem fair to me. I would rather
Mm-hmm.
give that opportunity to the actual people that have the money. And of course, it's
Mm.
difficult to manage because there's a lot of investors, but there are people with soul. I mean, and if you speak to them properly and they believe in you, they will come in. And I'd rather they make the money than the institutions make the money, right? Of course,
Oh.
there's a risk. I mean, if you go in an IPO where prospectus is issued, if you don't IPO, then the money goes back to the investor, right? But you're getting it at an IPO price. On an IPO price, your price can either go up or your price can go down, right? The difference in the pre-IPO is you're getting an early entry into it, and you got a huge upside on it. So on the IPO, you're guaranteed you make money, right? The risk is, of course, what happens if the company doesn't IPO, right? This is where the founder needs to be able to sell his story so that people believe in him, right? So you need to be able to sell that dream and turn it into reality. And I just have a passion for people.
Okay, so maybe you should talk a bit more into this, since we're talking about the pre-IPO. So what's this pre-IPO that's happening with your Zimi Diamond? And by the way, what's Zimi Diamond? I heard you mention that earlier on.
Zimi is a place in Sierra Leone. To the Africans, it's called the Garden of Eden because it's supposed to be a really beautiful place, right? In here, you find the world's best canary yellow diamonds. It is special. It's just like, you have the pink diamonds and you have the agro pink. The agro pink is different from all the other pinks because it's special and commands a premium. The Zimi diamonds, they are special. You have yellows everywhere. You have the Ellendale mines and Botswana and stuff. But the Zimi diamonds, they're special because they've got the highest nitrogen content in it. So the yellow in it is simply spectacular. For years, the major jewelers have been in there trying to get their hands on it, but no one has succeeded, right? And there's only one guy that does artisanal mining down there, right? So I'll be the first to hold that exploration license, right? So cut and polish Zimi diamond, which is a fancy yellow, vivid fancy yellow. If it's vivid fancy, VVS1, it sells for nothing less than $100,000 per carat.
Okay.
So I like it because I don't have to go for quantity; I can go for quality.
Okay. So it's so are you saying that this yellow canary
yellow, yeah,
canary yellow diamonds is only found in this one location?
Yeah, only one of its kind in the world, right? So it's a monopoly, right? I don't like competition, so I go for something that has got no competition.
So you're gonna do the exploration. You're gonna start the mining at some time in the future.
Yeah, after the IPO. So the IPO comes up between November and February, depending on how fast we can finish that prospectus.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we'll go for the listing.
Yeah. Is it supposed to be a secret, or you can openly say what's the pre-IPO price?
Oh no, the pre-IPO price currently is at 1 pence, which is slightly below 2 cents Australian. Okay. And the strike price of the IPO, the minimum strike price of the IPO, will be 5 pence, which is about 9.5 cents Australian. So there's quite a bit of margin in there, 380 to 400%.
Okay, so it's like a 1 to 5, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, 1 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So some of the listeners here could be listening in, and they're wondering, what's the minimum amount that people need to invest?
At least 5,000, right?
At least 5,000. 5,000 in what? Australian dollar?
Australian dollar. So about 2,000, 2,500 pounds, close to that.
Okay. That's sounds like a very doable amount.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. Okay.
I think I think there's strength in numbers. The more shareholders you have, and it doesn't matter the amount, the stronger you become, because no one single shareholder can destroy your stock.
Okay. So that's a very interesting concept. I think many people would like an easy way out. Get in one institutional, investor, and that's it. Home run.
But then that guy holds you at ransom, right? He's going to want to come on the board. He's going to put his conditions on, and that's where it all fails, because Africa is very different. You need to understand the cultures. You can't impose your cultures on them. You need to understand the culture. You need to work your way around them, right? It's not about giving. It's not about just going there and giving money, right? It's about empowering them with education and stuff like that. So unless you know how to operate in that area, and if you get people that sit on your board that don't understand this, like institutions sometimes, they want quick results, it's going to be impossible, right?
Yeah. So you said previously you listed one company. Is this a second company you're listing, or you've listed?
So I did Golden Saint Resources in 2013. That became the best performing IPO. We were voted best performing IPO at Mining Weekly. And then when I came back, the same people that said it was impossible made me executive chairman of ASX listed Nahex Life Science, because we wanted to go after the diamonds in Guinea then, and they started to believe in me. But the commodity markets crashed, and Adam Sirworski, who was one of the directors, came up to me and said, "Hey, we got this great company from Queensland that's where you cough in your phone and it can analyze you for bronchitis and stuff like that, and it's called RESAP. And how about we just reverse that into that vehicle?" And I said, okay. And, the only thing that excited me about it is when he told me that one of the shareholders was Bill Gates, and he had put in $100,000. So I wanted to be bigger than Bill Gates. So I put in 350. But, they took that board was amazing. They took that stock from 2 cents to almost 58 cents.
Wow.
And then, of course, it was the top 200 performing stock. And then eventually it came down. But just a couple of weeks ago, Pfizer made an offer for them for, I think, almost $150 million.
Wow.
And after that, in 2008, I had to go for a quadruple bypass. And so I sold off my previous company to a classmate of mine in Singapore, and I helped bring it from. So we did a reverse takeover, and we brought it from AIM to the London main board on the Standard Exchange. Are you still there? Can't hear you anymore.
Oops, I think I dropped for a few seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking about, so I did a reverse takeover on the ASX. It was REP, and then my previous company, I had to sell it off because I was going for a quadruple bypass. I gave it to a classmate of mine, and I helped them do that reverse takeover and brought them from AIM onto the main board in London. And I've done a couple of startup placements. I like early startups.
So Cyril, I'm very, very curious. How share with us some stories how you got these skills. People always think that listing a company is so difficult, but you've done it so many times. So you help so many companies on the journey. How do you start from zero to getting a company listed? What's the skills and how do you acquire all these skills?
I think for me, I'm geared. Failure is never an option for me, right? When I start a company, all my employees are graduates. I'm the only one that's a non-graduate. If I fail, that means if I fail, I probably end up working at McDonald's or Uber, right? So failure is not an option. My staff will do better for me, right? And the second thing is, I because I'm not a graduate, I can think outside the box, right?
Okay.
I look at what are the most for me the most important criteria. I mean, anyone can go to any website of any exchange and just click requirements for listing, and you got all the requirements, right? So anyone can, but it's not as simple as that, right? You need to go and take out the main points, right? For me, the main points are, right, what are the minimum requirements? Okay, for example, in my case, it's if I want to go on the London Standard, it's a GBP 30 million pound market capitalization. That's the main requirement I've got to meet. I've got to meet my working capital requirements for 18 months, right? And then of course that's the corporate due diligence, right? Most people start with the corporate due diligence. I start with raising the money, right? I build a story. I believe in that story, and I go out and raise the money. And if you do that this way, it's almost impossible for you to fail, because a lot of the success at the end of the day, no matter what you do, is based on the amount you need to raise that minimum amount that you need for your project, right? If you start a prospectus, a lot of people start the prospectus first because they need all the facts in the prospectus, and I think it's because they don't believe in themselves, right?
Okay.
And that prospectus protects them because it has a disclaimer in it, right? So nobody can say anything because you've signed the prospectus and you put money, right? So they're protecting themselves first, right? And but if you start a prospectus and you go and you don't raise the money, I mean, that prospectus is valid for 3 months. It's going to cost you $600,000, and not all brokers are going to give you money. They make you promises, but when it comes to real thing, and that's why 90% of prospectus fail, right?
Okay.
I don't need a disclaimer. I don't need a prospectus because I believe in what I do. I know what I'm doing, and I know I can get to the end point. So I go and take the money first, right? And it's a hard sell, but if your story is right and you speak from your heart, people believe in you. Having a product is, I mean, the Zimmy diamonds are great, right? But a Zimmy diamond by itself can't create money, right? You need someone behind him, right? Behind it. And if people believe in that person, then it becomes a lot easier, right? So my job is always take the money first, yeah, and the
Mm,
license, right? In this case, I've kept the license. I put in the application, but I've told the government I'll take the license just before the prospectus, right? And it
mm,
makes the work harder. But the only reason I did that is because a license has got 5 years. If you take the
mm,
license first, I started this exercise in 2018. If I taken the license first, I'd have run 3 years of the license down, which means the license
mm,
left 2 years, right? And it's a double barrel, right? It's unfair to shareholders too, and because you don't get full
mm,
5 year expiration. So I've done it the other way around, and I've reached agreement with people on the license for it. So
mm,
I take the license only in prospectus. Of course, selling it becomes harder because everyone is going to tell you, "Hey, shit, you only got the application license, right?" But people look at my record. I mean, I've got now about 175 shareholders, and they believe in me and they follow me, right? And I know I can
mm.
get to the end game without a problem.
Okay. Yeah. So so that's a very interesting approach, right? I mean, you don't do things the normal way. So if I'm going to ask you a very general question, what's your life philosophy?
Um, Turning dreams into reality. I think in life,
Okay.
we first need to build a dream. And we have
Mm-hmm.
that dream, we need to work into turning that into reality, right?
Mm,
And when you turn that dream into reality, in my case, like Sierra Leone, it's the eighth poorest nation in the world, right? I turn my dreams into reality, and my dreams are because I want to make money on the stock exchange. And that's my clear reason for it, right? But in
mm-hmm.
that process, I do the right things by the people in Sierra Leone, by the people on the ground, right? I help them to dream, and I turn their dreams into reality too, right? So I turn my dreams into reality. I turn the dreams of the people on the ground into reality. I turn the dreams of my shareholders into reality because they make profits,
Mm-hmm.
and the government is also happy, right? So
Mm.
everything is taken care of. Then this new term called ESG, environmental social governance, it all fits into it, right? So
Okay.
and
Mm.
that's what I base my principle on.
Okay. So and what makes you happy, Cyril? I know I didn't.
I, I,
This is an interesting question. What makes you happy? Because
I
you're
think,
always so positive, so joyful person. I
yeah,
met you a few times in Perth already. Attended your
yeah,
BNI chapter meeting.
yeah.
Right?
I think life is, you create your own destiny, right? And
Mm,
of course, the guy upstairs, he does the rest. But if you do it right, he'll back you up. And
mm,
you can only do so much in a day, so there's no use worrying, right? As long as you're doing the right thing, you don't have to
mm,
worry because the doors always open, and the doors have always opened when I do the right thing, right? And
mm.
I know when sometimes when it's difficult, God is telling me that, or karma is telling me that, you've got to pay a little bit for your sins, and so you take the hard
Mhm,
route, right? And that's fair, right? So
mhm.
my father taught me not to worry about life. He says, life is simple. Keep it, keep it that way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you look after I would say the essential things in life, and
Yeah,
do things right or do the right things, yeah, I totally subscribe by your belief in the philosophy, right? So for those of you who are listening in, whether you're listening in live or listening to the recording, and you are interested to find out a bit more about the project that Cyril is having, whether you're interested. I mean, if you're interested to explore a bit about the pre-IPO offer, this is the Facebook page for Millennium Capital, Cyril's company. You can go there, check it out, and there are some contact details there, right, Cyril?
yes,
Yeah.
we're good.
Okay. So we are coming up to the end of the hour. So I'm going to ask Cyril one last question. Okay. So if for companies that are wanting to go into the journey towards the IPO, okay, what would your tips? Yeah. What tips can you give companies who wants to go for listing?
I think you need to first to believe in yourself, right? You need to take destiny in your own hands. Don't put your destiny in the hands of brokers, right? You need to
Mm-hmm.
take the destiny in your own hands, and that's where you minimize the risk, right? And it's a
Okay.
full-time job. Don't try and say I'm going to IPO and I'm going to do something else because it doesn't work. An IPO, you run it 24 hours a day, and you get to the end, right? And people need to see that, right? If you're taking money from people and you're doing something else, then people say, "Oh, if you fail, you've got to go back to this job," right? But if you're totally committed, people know that
Mm.
you believe in it, and they know that you don't want to fail, and that's the most, right? And if you can have that, then after you do, you can do that, and you can sell that dream. Then you go and look at the website and see what are the entry requirements, right? Right.
Hmm.
That should be the last thing to do, not the first thing to do, right? You need to get that
Okay.
capital and you need to build that story.
Hmm. So I think I like your the part where you shared, you got to believe in yourself first, or believe in your project first, right?
Of course, right?
Yeah, you cannot sell something that you don't believe in. Yeah,
Yes,
totally
exactly,
agree
right?
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks Cyril for sharing this. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the Ask YP Live show. I'm going to give you a little gift. Okay, so if you've not already got a copy of this book, I wrote this book some time ago, and this book, 10 proven strategies to work less, earn more. It talks about life balance. It talks about creating multiple channels of income. It's already an Amazon bestseller. But I'm not asking you to go to Amazon to buy this book. Okay, take a picture of this link here, or you see the QR code up there. Take a picture of the QR code, and the link is there. And I would like to give you a free copy of this book here, and wish you a journey to work less and more. Okay, so with this, Cyril, let's say, good evening, good morning, good
Thank you.
afternoon to our guests, and thank you so much for being with us. Okay.
Thank you, YP, and thank you everyone for watching.
Okay, I'm just gonna play a little outro, and then we're gonna end the session. Okay.